That's a good one. You should bring that up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're on. We're on? Okay, we're on, everybody. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors to order. Would we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I have the following announcements. A report out of the May 17th, last week's 2011 closed session, public employment, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. By a unanimous vote, with Supervisor Spellman absent, the Board appointed Assistant County Counsel Janice Elliott to the position of County Counsel for Calaveras County, effective July 16th, 2011. The second announcement is there will be no Board of Supervisors meeting next week, May 31st, as it is the 5th Tuesday of the month. So everybody can now be aware that the Board can count to 5. So with that, I'll make the further announcement that I have to excuse myself at 10:30 a.m. this morning, and Gary Tofinelli will conduct the remainder of the meeting. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. Excuse me. They will be acted upon by one time by the Board without further discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested member of the public may request that any item on the consent agenda be removed for further discussion prior to the Board's taking action. Does any board member wish to pull any item on the consent agenda? Does any staff member wish to pull any item on the consent agenda? Is there any member of the public here present this morning that has any item on the consent agenda, items 1 through 7 inclusive, they wish to have discussed with or by the Board prior to the Board's taking action? Al Segala. 7. Okay. Any other public member? Seeing none, the chair is open.
Number 3 and number 6, please.
Okay, 3 and 6.
Actually, I'd like to pull number 4.
Huh?
Number 4.
Okay, number 4. Any other public member? The chair is open for motion or approval on the balance of the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Supervisor Walensky, a second by Supervisor Spellman. Is there further board discussion? All in favor so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the Board of Supervisors. We'll go back to item 3, a minute order authorizing execution of an amendment to the road maintenance agreement between Calaveras County and 7-Eleven Materials Incorporated, which provides funding to mitigate impacts from material hauling on the Milton-Jenny Lynn Road. Peter, please come to the podium. You can state your name for the record and sign.
My name is Peter Reyes, Rancho Calaveras. I just have a quick question for you. There's a 2.4 that gives a hardship consideration.
It's what?
Hardship, economical hardship to the company. Reconsideration of that fees they pay. Is that a normal procedure for the county when somebody's paying road fees for that Jenny Milton Road? I presume that's the name of the roads that they're using. If they get into trouble economically, they have an option to talk to that's what I want to find out, is that Public Works going to determine how much they're going to lower their fees, and is this option to the general public? Like individuals paying, call it whatever you want it, I call it the toll road on my road. If some individual gets into economical problems, can I come to Public Works and say, hey, lower my fees because I'm going broke? Is it available to the public in general? Is this specific?
This is a commercial operation. It's not...
Hey, fine. I'm a commercial operation. Okay, so everybody else taxpayers, basically.
They're already paying extra for their impacts on the road.
So do I, sir.
As a citizen, you don't pay extra.
Oh, really?
To drive it more.
Yes, sir, I do. Okay, but I'm getting to the debate.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir. But I'm getting to the debate. I'm paying extra. So are they. which is I respect it. I think it's a very good idea, and I support it. They have availability when they have economical problems, because they're not getting as much for their, whatever they're mining,
The answer, Peter, is it's not available to you as an
as
individual.
an individual. Thank you, that's what I want to know.
Mr. Chair, I believe the subject before us is the elimination, at least in part, is the elimination of the hardship provision. Is that, am I correct in that?
Yes.
So that might render the comment moot.
It's still a policy, so.
Deborah Mullen, Public Works. Supervisor Walensky is correct. That's one of the elements of the amended road maintenance agreement, is that the hardship clause be eliminated based on the fact that, as Mr. Reyes brings up, there's no clear criteria for establishing what that hardship is when it occurs, and also that it would likely occur to the county at the same time and in the same way. So the hardship clause is eliminated in the agreement.
Okay, further discussion on item 3. Chair's open for a motion.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by Supervisor Callaway, a second by Supervisor Walensky. Further board discussion. All in favor, so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Move forward to item 4, a resolution adopting the attached County of Calaveras fraud policy. Darren, you pulled this.
Yes, I was wondering, I like the idea of the fraud policy. Obviously, we have to go through with this to make sure that we receive the proper amount of our funding, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, I was wondering, the guidelines that are stipulated in this fraud policy, are those things synonymous with our overall fraud policy for the government center here in San Andres, or is this only specific to our funded projects?
No, it is not specific. CalEMA basically, through our funds, in order to continue to receive them, and more departments are actually getting those funding, what we did is the individual departments actually have to have a fraud policy as part of their checkoff list for the audit. What we decided to do was take the opportunity. We have language in the Calaveras County ordinance, but we decided to do a countywide policy, so it's not just specific to our funds, but any funds that the county would receive, so that we don't have to do this again. We'd have a specific policy that's out there for all departments, all counties, and then we'll be able to communicate that to employees as well, and
So
take care of ARA.
Okay, so this satisfies ARA as well as we'll use this as a blueprint as a general policy?
That's correct. And we do have it in the code as well, but now we also have a policy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I did have one question. I think this probably goes for county council. There's a section on reporting procedures, I believe on page 4 of the document, that outlines the protections people have for coming forward with fraud reports. I want to make sure that we are as comprehensive as all statutes and court rulings on basically whistleblowers protection. And do you feel that this is comprehensive in that regard, or is this short of the existing legal standard mark for that protection?
I read it as being very comprehensive protection for a whistleblower, but David Sirius is in the room. I think he worked on this with Francine, and maybe has further comments, but I think it's a very thorough protection for, and encourages people to report allegations of fraud.
I believe it's very comprehensive, and we followed the guidelines, but go
I
ahead.
haven't read it in a long time.
I read it this morning, and I thought it was...
I know the law's been evolving on this, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, this is, anything more comprehensive, you would essentially be rewriting the labor code whistleblower statute, you'd be rewriting the government code statute. So all those statutes are very comprehensive, they do apply to public agencies. This is basically just an internal protocol to facilitate from getting from A to B. So I think it's quite acceptable.
All right, thank you.
Further discussion by board members. Any comments from the public? Chip?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a couple of concerns I'd like to. My name is Ray Venture Calaveras. First of all, we've been out of compliance in this state. But I have two. One of them is jumps out at me as far as making it a problem and disclosing confidential proprietary information. And I had the impression it may have been inside. Now, you asking the sheriff department and legal counsel to investigate. What if the legal counsel has made, or somebody in the legal counsel department had said or done something that's not quite legit? I would like to, you might want to consider to include the district attorney who also had the legal power to do something about it. Because I know you're all striving for an open and transparent administration. But it would be nice to know for the public that we do practice checks and balances. If one of your staff, your administration screws up and costs the county a whole bunch of money, it would be nice if some other agency can take action regarding that. So I would like to bring it to your attention, because right now, in past activities, what are you going to do? The legal counsel going to... Do you really believe they're going to do action against their own staff? The legal counsel is in your behalf. The district attorney is in the public half. Include the DA, they have the legal means and knowledge, what the sheriff department, and in cooperation of you folks and your staff to make sure it's all clear and open and transparent. Thank you.
Any other comments on item 4? Chair is open for a motion.
I motion to accept the fraud policy as written, although I would like to see the comments that Mr. Race addressed included in there, so that we can have the district attorney involved in the process if necessary as a check and balance. I think that that's appropriate.
Are you proposing to revise and amend this to the line of the DA would be included if another department was conflicted in the transaction?
Yes.
That's in,
For transparency and openness.
So that would be an amendment?
is there a reason that the district attorney office is not included?
No, I mean, we use the district attorney's office, but just for standard protocol, I mean, I think we have the checks and balances in place, but if you'd like to add that extra layer, we can add that to the policy, so there's further protection.
I would just point out that some of this doesn't come within the DA's authority.
Okay.
There may be allegations of non-criminal fraud. So I think before you make the change, the DA would have to consent to be part of the process.
Yeah, I don't know legally
And I'm not suggesting
what
that
any
you don't make the change,
implications.
but I think that before you approve it, with the change, we bring the DA into the discussion, make sure they're agreeable.
We can do that and work with counsel and the DA, work through that issue, and if it's appropriate, then we'll go ahead and amend the policy if that's
Right.
the
So
board's direction.
could we act on this today as it is, hold the amendment for discussion pending the DA's reaction for the next meeting?
I don't know if I feel comfortable approving it as is, because then any addendum later on you're not holding up the document for that amendment. I'd like for the owner, the onerous to be on us to have the amendment attached to it so that it's approved at such time when they're both brought together.
It will just be incorporated. You continue it and you won't incorporate it.
Okay,
It
sure.
won't be an amendment
Whatever.
then.
So it's saying, is there any reason this couldn't wait till the meeting in June?
No, that would be fine. We did let CalEMA know that we were bringing the policy to the board today and that we would have it in place. So we can send them further notification that it's back on the agenda with a possible revision in early
The
June.
other is maybe we could talk to the district attorney this morning and hold this off till later.
Why not just continue it 2 weeks? bring it back.
Because she's already told Cal-EMA, it's another call to Cal-EMA, and if the DA agrees,
Well, I don't like the idea that people call and tell them they're going to have something approved before it even comes for a vote. I don't necessarily like that idea. You call in somebody and tell them, we're going to have it for you today, that's assuming it's going to be approved.
No, we-
If we're avoiding public comment, that doesn't sit well with me at all.
I think people
I think you
misunderstood what Francine
misunderstood.
told us.
Yeah, thank
Well, the way that Marita's portraying it is that she's already told us.
What I heard from Francine was that she had told the agency that we were going to consider it today.
That's right.
And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yes.
So,
They wanted a plan of action.
If you want to change it,
And so-
why don't you just make a 2-week continuance motion
I make a motion for a 2-week continuance,
and to incorporate the changes when it comes back.
to incorporate the changes when it comes back.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I will second that motion, understanding that the changes we're talking about is the request for the DA to enter in the event of conflict, and if the DA says no to that, it comes back in the current
As is.
condition.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Spellman, a second by Supervisor Walensky. Is there further board discussion? All in favor, so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. We'll move forward to item 6, a resolution amending resolution
Thank you.
1-0-0-7 to include a revised Exhibit A. Peter, you pulled this, would you please come forward? Mayor Race, Manager Calaveras, for the past about a year, I've been asking what the county's policy is as far as fluorescent bulbs are. And I know for a good reason you folks don't answer it. And our impression is that Public Works does not have any policy taking, in case of an accident, these fluorescent bulbs. Now you're expecting $180,000 to retrofit public buildings. And I know how much you're concerned about mercury and environment and et cetera, which I greatly appreciate and support you on it. But right now, this public entity has no policy. How are you going to handle these fluorescent bulbs? Because in the first 5 minutes of any accidents, they're well proven there's a tremendous amount of mercury is going to go up in the air, both in private home and in public places, for the safety of your employees and your constituents. Because you are committing to yourself disregarding the health and welfare of your constituents and your employees and yourself. And right now today you got a whole bunch of youngsters in here. I know you're concerned about the mercury, and I agree with you, it's very important. But let's get real, folks. You have a very dangerous product in the community that you're pushing. So please, consider it. I know $180,000 is very tempting to get a grant, but you are exposing your constituents, your employees, and youngsters. How are you going to handle an accident? Nobody has stated yet. Okay, Public Works been very quiet on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't think that's really the issue before us at this point in time, but that's an issue that needs to be addressed. So are there further board discussion on this matter?
Yeah. In the year 2009, when I was at Calaveras High School, we had an individual come and do a presentation to the Earth Club there, and at that point, he was part of a technology that was at the forefront of lighting, and that was something that we're now seeing available commercially today. You can buy one at Lowe's or Home Depot, but 2 years ago you could not, and that is an LED bulb. The bulbs that Mr. Race is talking about are compact fluorescent, the little squiggly ones, and they do have mercury, and it is cause for concern for people, especially in public area. The LED bulbs that they have that are now available commercially have absolutely none of those problems. It's basically like a little wafer, like it looks like a computer, like a silicon chip. There's no moving parts, there's no filament, there's none of that. The cost is a little bit greater than the CFL because it's newer technology, but I would encourage, for the sake of safety and the sake of long range, the LED bulb with the little chip, that thing will last longer than everybody in here. Everybody in this room will be dead before the LED gives out, because it's basically like a computer chip that just heats and cools with the lighting. It has no impact whatsoever on the environment in the event of an accident or something like that. So to the extent that we can, for some of the bulbs that are really, high up in the ceiling or different places like that, we don't want to change very often, as budget allows, I think we should look to use those LED light bulbs in place of the CFLs if we can.
Okay, any other board comments? Any other public comments? Chair will entertain a motion of approval on items.
Would you like Zacharias?
I'm sorry, I don't have any comments. I'm just here to answer any questions. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. Have LED bulbs been considered? I mean, I know that it's not set in stone, it says complex, but has there been any discussion about the ability to use the LEDs?
I don't recall seeing them on the approved lights for the grant itself. The majority of the lights that we are changing are in fact the 2, 4, and 8-foot fluorescent tubes, not the small lights. That's the majority of what we have.
I would suspect that would be the case, but I do see it does call out for even the screw-in ones, which are the squiggly,
It does.
and you could use the LEDs on those.
We have to stick to the what the grant has listed as the appropriate lights.
You said you weren't sure though if that was...
I don't recall seeing any LEDs listed on that list.
My question was along the lines of the issue that Mr. Reyes raised, which is I don't believe we need a county policy to have a procedure that complies with the requirements to handle these things in a safe manner, and there's a prescribed process. Is this county aware of those processes and ready to comply with them?
Yes, in fact, we are. It is actually part of the grant and part of the bid process that the contractor who bids on it will follow the state-approved program for dealing with bulbs that break and the disposal of the bulbs when they're pulled out. It's fairly inclusive. It doesn't look like any fun, but it's pretty set out. It's a 10-page document that the state has provided.
Speaking of contractors, that brings to mind, I received some email about this particular agenda item and wondering, what we can do to get local contractors involved in doing the work. I mean, this doesn't seem like it's something that's highly technical. I don't know if we're going to have if we have staff here at the county that are going to perform the duties, or if we're going to hire someone. If we are,
this will be bid out, and there are at least 2 local contractors that have already talked to me about it. One of them won the bid in Tuolumne County. He's a local Calaveras contractor, and I suspect he will be bidding on this also.
that's good to hear.
Yes.
The local contractor, the desire of this board to do business with local contractors wherever feasible and possible, and to give every advantage, every legal advantage to local economies, has been much discussed. I'm interested in what we can do about this in relation to this particular transaction, or as a general county policy to strengthen our commitment to that to do something about that desire in a more effective way than we have been up to this point. Do you have any suggestions for us on that?
I don't at this time. It is one of those things I would love to look into, and I will do so.
Are there parameters on the grant?
There are, because this is our funds coming through the state, coming to the county, there are requirements. I don't believe that we can use our 3% local contractor on this one.
So this will be handled through federal bidding procedures that are sort of superimposed goes with the money.
It'll be Public Works contracting, which typically does not allow us to use our 3%.
All right, well, I would like to take a look at all possibilities, because it comes up every time we have a contract. It'd be nice to know what our legal possibilities are, and give us an opportunity to take advantage wherever there is a legal moment for us.
When do you expect this to go out to bid?
Late June, after budget hearings.
And the work will commence in July, September, August?
Probably September or October. And it has to be done by March, but our county is fairly small, and it doesn't seem to be an issue, the timeline.
Chair is open for a motion on item 6. No, excuse me. Is it item 6 we're on?
No, you're right.
It is 6.
Zachariah, isn't this the one where we had that study done and it came through and they did all the facilities, including the Calaveras High School and everything, and there was, we had workshops on this, public workshops. This is the same one, isn't it?
This was the Noresco.
Yes, the Noresco one, thank you. And this was sponsored by Calaveras Public Power Agency for its member agencies.
I'd be happy to make the motion, but I'd like to mention that the motion is to add simply the buildings that we, although our discussion is that we're adding the buildings where this work will take place to the original proposal as demanded by the Energy Commission.
That's correct. They've awarded us the grant, but to actually receive any of the funds, we have to add the listed buildings.
I have a motion to approve item 6 as presented. Do I have a second?
Wait, my house isn't on here.
You're lucky if it isn't.
I'll make a second.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Walensky, a second by Supervisor Spellman. Do I have any further board discussion? All in favor, so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. We'll move forward to item 7, a resolution to enter into an annual operating and financial plan for patrol and narcotics operations with the United States Forest Service. Al, what burning issue do we have here this morning?
We may not have a burning issue, but then again, we may. Al Segala, Calaveras County Taxpayer Association. The question I have in dealing with financial matters with the federal government is this. Since the federal government is bankrupt, we have to be careful to not encourage them to do more harm to themselves. So what I'd like to ask the question, what is the financial, what kind of money's involved? Who's paying for it? Is it a grant? Is it something else? And what's the burden on our Calaveras County taxpayers? I believe I can answer that. This calls for the Forest Service to reimburse with federal funds local costs of $7,650 for duties associated with patrol in national forests, and up to $5,000 for controlled substance removal, for a total of $12,650. That's what's before us here. It's costs that we've incurred but have not been reimbursed for sometimes in the past, and this allows us to do this work and at least get a local reimbursement for it. And $12,650 is not likely to send the federal government into any worse money. Yes.
Okay, any more comments?
I do.
Oh, go ahead, Gary.
I just have one comment, and it's in the form of an amendment to this. On the back, on the signature page, it lists Gary Coombs as the coroner. Can we amend that to just say sheriff, please?
I believe I have that changed.
Do you have it changed already?
Yeah, I think there's...
The one I have is
This wording.
Okay.
It is true that previous sheriffs have wanted to take that operation under their domain, so...
Okay, Dan, what do you have?
I just wanted to make a comment for Al and anybody else that may be interested in part of the parameters of that. One of the things that we're falling into trouble with these days is people that are using government forest lands to produce illegal drugs. One of the things that the non-citizen drug-growing cartel does is they go into the forest areas and they set up a drip line in the springtime to grow things that they can sell on a black market, and it's becoming a very large problem. So I'm surprised that there isn't more money for this because from what I understand, there's a big problem with it, not necessarily in our area, and we hope that it stays that way. But there are other areas where they have intense issues with these things, especially up north where there's national park lands or forest areas that don't get frequented as much. Because of our proximity to the San Francisco Bay Area, even though we do have some remote locations in our national forests, there are a lot of people that backpack and hike and do other outdoor activities, so it's not as likely that people would set up a type of thing like that because it's more likely that they'd be found. But nevertheless, I'm glad that the government sees this as a problem, that they're delegating at least some expenditure to help take care of this, because that is a problem. I mean, the drug growing illegally, and specifically the chemicals that they use to create a quick growing season, because of the altitude, by the time the snow melts off until the wintertime starts again, sometimes there's as little as a 4-month window. So they use really harsh chemicals to get the plants to grow very fast. So it causes a problem with the environment. It also causes a problem for the end user. People who buy and use those drugs that are grown with those harsh chemicals are ingesting those harsh chemicals unbeknownst to them, most likely. So it's a huge problem. So I'm glad that I see this, that we're getting some funding to make sure that our area doesn't become the next expansion area for these operations.
Tom Liberty, Calaveras Patient Resources, Mountain Ranch. Actually, I'm sorry, Collective Patient Resources. I forgot we changed our name. I just wanted to say that we very much support the eradication of these big illegal grows, and I'm glad you touched on the environmental impact, because they're tearing the forest up out there. So even though the people that I work with aren't very excited about the position the federal government has taken on medical marijuana, we're all very united in the idea that these big illegal grows need to be taken care of, and the land needs to be protected. It would also be great if at some point, I know this is a fantasy, but if at some point when they do get out there and they find that medicine, if that medicine could somehow be diverted to the terminally ill and cancer patients, that would be a really great program to get started. Thanks.
Well, depending on if they find that they're using harsh chemicals, that might not be a...
Okay, are there other board comments? Chair is open for a motion.
So moved.
Second with the amendments as previously discussed.
What was the amendment?
The change from corner.
Sorry, take care of it.
Well, I'm not for that. I have a motion by Supervisor Tofinelli. I have a second by Supervisor Walensky. Any further board discussion? I'll just give you my 2 cents worth. To me, this is absolute insanity what we have for a marijuana policy in the country. We should legalize it, allow people, farmers to grow it and harvest it. If people wish to consume it, let them consume it. All we're doing is giving another product to the drug cartels in Mexico to import it. I mean, either we grow it here or we import it. If we import it through the drug cartels and other illegal organizations that makes hundreds of millions of dollars to just undermine the governments in their country and to increase the level of violence in their country. And all you have to do is pick up the newspaper and read about Mexico. And all that is being produced for the consumption in the United States. And quite frankly, nobody produces anything except for consumption. It's consumption that drives all economic production. And yet they're bearing the brunt in Mexico for our consumption in the United States. It makes absolutely no sense at all. It's just like, well, what can we do to fund drug cartels? And basically that's all we're doing, and that's the same thing we're doing worldwide whenever governments try to eradicate illicit drugs, particularly through farming, at the farming level, whether it be in Afghanistan or Mexico or wherever, whether you're importing into China, importing into the United States, importing into whatever the consumptive body is that pays for and rewards people for those types of activities. So it makes absolutely no sense at all to me, but the fact of the matter is it is illegal. We have to provide the law enforcement, and we should be compensated for that as being, we're required under the law to do so. So I will support the motion. Further discussion?
Just wanted to mark the close of the most global consent calendar yet. We've taken every small issue and given it its full context.
There you go. All in favor, so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the Board of Supervisors. My God, we're through with the consent agenda.
Tom, you're getting religious on us.
Yeah, now we'll go to the regular agenda and we'll just zip right through it without any questions at all.
Before we go to public, should be a good moment and not overly global.
With the consent of the board, I'd like to take item 9 prior to public comments, which is a resolution recognizing the Calaveras High School 2011.
It's item 11, Tom.
It's been moved to 11. Christ almighty, but I don't even have the right, what did I do with my glasses?
You're on the wrong agenda.
We're actually going to get to you. This is
Okay. Item 11, I'm going to move that forward with the consent of the board prior to public comments. A resolution recognizing the Calaveras High School 2011 varsity girls soccer team as the Mother Lode League champions. And this is being brought by Gary Tofinelli. So Gary, if you'd like to wave the flag, please proceed.
No, I won't wave the flag because I don't have a Calaveras High flag. If I did, I would be waving it. Did anybody bring one? On this item, I received a couple of emails on requesting that I do this. And is the whole team here this morning? Almost all. Why don't you come on up?
Come on.
Come on all the way up here. Come on up here.
If I can interject something in this, I just want to bring it to the board's attention that this is the first time in the history of Calaveras High School that the girls have won the soccer title for the league.
Come around this way. The cameras are over here.
You're on television now.
Not only did they win the league title this year for their high school, but they also took their team to the section finals that they just played in on Saturday. It's kind of like a Northern California title for the state, if you will, for their size school. However, they didn't win. They got beat by West Campus out of Sacramento. So, but anyways, they were runner-up in the section finals, so it's quite an accomplishment for these girls.
I have a resolution here. Is Angela the coach? First year. This is her first year as coach. I'd like to read it, and then I will present one to each member and to the coach, and then I have one for the school if they want to display it. And then I'll give, if the rest of the team's not here, I'll give it to you and make sure they get their copies of the resolution. Okay? This is a resolution recognizing the Calaveras High School varsity girls soccer team as the 2011 Mother Lode League champion. It says, whereas the Calaveras High School varsity girls soccer team had a winning season with an overall record of 15, 5, and 6, and a league record of 8, 2, and 5. I don't know if that record included your section or not. What was your overall including this section? You know? 17, 6, and 6. Fantastic. Bunch of winners here. Whereas Angela Jarvis, in her first year as head coach, worked with the girls to make school history by claiming a first-time Mother Lode League soccer championship. But I don't know, I tried to find out, I talked to Rick Stiles, the principal, to find out how long the soccer program has been in existence at Calaveras High School, but I didn't get an answer. So I'm hoping that it's more than 25 years.
Yeah, the person that asked is Miss Yellowbit, because she actually started the soccer program.
Did she?
It's actually the history teacher.
13 years enough? 13 years in existence. I'm going to name, it has the names of all the players here, so if I chop up your name, please excuse me. Okay. Whereas the players representing the 2011 is Christy Jacobson, Chelsea Teixeira, Teixeira, Katie Vernon, Bethany Valdez, Deanna Bryden, Cecilia Beza, Stephanie Freitas, Jessica Johnson, Alyssa White, Megan Fox, Jody Lundgren, Jessica Carter, Morgan Colburn, Madison Cox, Cassie Beal, Tiffany Souza, Mercedes Ball, Aubrey Carter, along with the statisticians and the team's manager, Alexis Kohler, Sarah Hand, and Elena Campbell should be commended for their teamwork. And whereas the dedication, commitment, and camaraderie exemplified by these girls serves as an example to us all of what can be achieved in working together. And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors that the 2011 Calaveras High School Varsity Girls Soccer Team be honored for their endeavors and dedication on behalf of their school. On a motion by Supervisor Toppinelli.
And second by Steve Walensky.
And seconded by Steve Walensky. Supervisor Steve Walensky, the foregoing resolution was duly passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Calaveras.
I haven't voted yet.
We all in favor?
No.
Questions, sir? Discussion and debate. Okay, are there any board comments or questions?
Yes, I do. My understanding is that you all beat Bret Hart High School to get here. I have a
Excuse me, go ahead.
This is really hard for me to support this. I'm a Bret Hart follower, so I guess... So I guess I'll have to challenge Bret Hart to be in this room next year. So with that caveat, I will support this. I'm really choking. Supervisor, try on.
I have a question, Gary. I have to know if any of these young ladies are a member of the Calaveras High School Earth Club.
That was last year.
Yeah. Not a problem.
What do you have?
I just wanted to mention that 12 years ago, I had a daughter play on this team. It was just beginning, and they lost just about every game. 10 years later, I had another daughter, Hannah, who played on before being injured out there in the field, and they lost nearly every game. So what you've done is overcome a rich tradition of losing to get to this moment, and I want to thank you for vindicating their efforts early on.
Any other comments? There.
I just wanted to make notice that at least 4 of the girls here I can remember I had as students at Calaveras High School. And one of the things that we try to accomplish in education is to have well-rounded individuals heading out when they graduate with that diploma in their hand. One of the things that makes them a person as a whole is being involved in other activities. Academics is certainly where we would hope that they excel at, but sports is one way that they can become a whole person, and it teaches them to manage their time. It teaches them to be physically active, sportsmanship, those type of things that will carry over to make them the type of adults and citizens that are shining examples in our community. And I'm very, very, very proud of them. And I want to say that I have a picture saved on my computer from a Calaveras Enterprise article, I think. Is Brianna here? I don't know who shot the picture, but it's a picture of where it was taken one of the last games of the season when they were going into the playoffs, where they beat Somerville in the snow. These girls played in the snow. Okay? Now, if that isn't dedication, I don't know what is. Taking a risk of being kicked in the shins in the snow. I mean, I never went out for soccer because I played when I was young and I got kicked in the shins and I said, forget that. Not that anymore. I went into other things, but I mean, to have that game and, you know, near the end of the season in the snow and still playing on and winning that game as part of the record, I mean, that's outstanding. So I congratulate you all on your successful season. Hope to see you on the
vote.
Should we do a roll call vote? I think we should do a roll call vote, so it's everybody's of record. With the clerk,
So the part of the thing, himself,
conduct a roll call vote.
Supervisor Tofinelli,
Yes.
Supervisor Walensky,
Aye.
Supervisor Callaway,
Okay, yes.
Supervisor Spellman,
Yes.
and Chair Trial.
Aye. Congratulations, ladies.
Just pass these out. They are suitable for framing if you want. This one's for you. Congratulations. 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 Congratulations.
Yeah, but it was all,
It's hard.
the objections were fraudulent.
Reason handwriting is a little shaky. It was blank when she signed it. Congratulations. Oh, that's from the snow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That completes item 9. We'll then go back to item 8, public comments. 5 minutes per person. Comments should be limited to items of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. I'll also,
Here.
10, excuse me, I'm on the wrong. 10. Item 10, public comments. I also announce at this time that on the regular agenda, if there are going to be public comments on regular agenda items other than public comments, those comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Thank you. Would you take mine one away? Now I don't have any names, I don't forget everybody's name.
He's strumming to a different beat.
I see that.
Keeps telling you that.
Good morning, Marty Crane. Thank you for moving the students up. Happy thing coming next Saturday, Valley Springs. I've given you all a little pocket stuffer. It's the Blues Music Festival is coming to Valley Springs on Saturday. I have tickets. Surprisingly, they are only $10 a piece, very affordable. And you just bring a lawn chair, sit back and enjoy 3 live bands, food, vendors, and the well-known Calaveras community excitement. You can go to Valley Springs, spelled out, valleyspringsmusic.org to see and hear samples of the bands. It's at the Valley Springs Terrace Center at Highway 26 in Vista Del Lago. It's on Saturday the 28th from 2 to 9 p.m. And it's a great opportunity to be part of a community building at its best. If you'd like to be a sponsor of the Blues Festival, a donation of $100 buys 12 tickets, which gives you a $20 savings. You could then use that to take a friend or use them for one of your employees or someone who is not generally able to go to these sort of things. This is brought to you by the Valley Springs Community Music and Arts Association, and the proceeds benefit the local youth of Calaveras. So, I have tickets, don't be shy. And also, that same morning, across the street is a classic car show. So there's something for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? If so, please come forward.
Good morning, Terry Hall, Chief Probation Officer. I just want to comment that Amador High School finished third in the soccer season this year. Didn't want that to go without notice because I am an Amador High graduate, so I just wanted to touch on that. I also wanted to touch briefly on yesterday's U.S. Supreme Court ruling regarding overcrowding. I wanted to advise the board that in light of this, it comes at an interesting time because of AB 109, the realignment bill. And I just wanted to assure the board that the county is working towards a plan. We have a community corrections partnership meeting scheduled for June 10th, I believe. And all the partners will be getting together on that day to discuss the plan for the realignment of these inmates from the state prison.
When is this?
It's meeting is June 10th.
I have an Administration of Justice Committee meeting next week. So if there's some thoughts, because I know we'll be discussing this, it's with California State Association of Counties. If there's some
I'm going to try to attend that same meeting.
you can let me know, because I'm assuming we're going to be discussing this. The agenda came out, we did our agenda review on that prior to the Supreme Court ruling.
Right. And just to let you know, this AB 109 has been written to align itself with SB 678. And if you remember in 2009, the SB 678 is the Community Corrections Performance Incentive Act. And that's when probation was given the task of decreasing the prison recommendations and revocations of probation to interstate prison system. And just so you know, in Calaveras, in 2007, we had 61 people that went to state prison. 2008, there was 76. 2009, there was 58. And 2010, we decreased it to 44. And in light of that, there is funding that comes back to the county as a result of those decreased numbers. The original amount coming back to Calaveras this year was going to be $214,000, and due to our substantial decrease in 2010, they have upped that by $155,000. So the total coming back to probation is $369,000 this year, which will help offset any VLF loss that we're looking at.
Good job.
So we're going to keep going in that direction. Alternative sentencing we're going to make a nice presentation to the board in June to explain where we are now. We left here in June last year, gave you 5 goals that we had, and we're going to start out and explain where we're at. Any questions?
The chief probation officers and the California State Sheriff's Association, are they aligned on, do you know yet, on the Supreme Court ruling? Or we're anticipating this anyway.
The chief probation officers are in line with this ruling. We actually submitted a letter yesterday regarding the position of the chief probation officers, and basically that is to keep going in the direction we're going because we do support it. I can't speak for the Sheriff's Association at this time on yesterday's ruling. I don't know where they stand.
Okay, thank you.
One question here. The 10th, it's great that people are getting together on the 10th, but we also have potentially extended budget hearings on that date. I'm hoping you can find a way to make sure that the partners relating to that can circulate in if necessary.
I've had some RSVPs from the critical partners. That day is only going to be a small window of time to explain what we're doing.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to really move forward.
Not an all-day.
No, it's only going to be a 30-minute window of time to actually just introduce what our plan for this committee will be.
Gotcha, thanks.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? If so, please come forward.
I thought Dana had a question.
David Tuno, Rancho Calaveras. Couple things. One of them just came up this morning. I would encourage the board to, at some point in the near future, to put on the agenda, or at least up for discussion, on the agenda, the issue of evening meetings. For one thing, those young ladies that were just here wouldn't have to cut class to be here. So I think that's an issue that the public would appreciate, and it would be important for public input to have that back, to have evening meetings.
They got an education in government.
Did they get education? I heard applause, I didn't hear education, but that's fine. I mean, congratulations to them. It just reminded me that when I was thinking, gosh, they're missing a lot of class too, so a lot of people have to miss work to be here. It would open it up a lot. It would mean a lot to the county. I'm really here to talk about everybody's favorite subject, the housing element, because of comments that were made last week after the public comments section that I couldn't respond to, that raised questions in my mind that I wanted to bring up today. My understanding, and this is, I guess was a misunderstanding, so I would like to be informed on this, that a year ago, with the adoption, and adoption might be the wrong word, of the housing element as a component of the general plan. My understanding was that since the general plan itself had yet to be adopted, it's coming up for discussion soon, I believe, that the housing element was then dormant until the general plan, here I see the nods, and that's my issue, that until the general plan is adopted, the housing element is not. Meaning that from last year to whenever the plan is adopted, the element is open for review, amendments. To it, Mr. Tryan's question that we discussed last week, I won't repeat it, that could be answered. Mr. Tofanelli's issue with the zoning snafu that he said he was dead against last year. So I believed that those issues could be addressed during the course of the year, amendments could be made, and that was the reason for those issues being brought up then, because if the housing element is adopted and it's in stone, then that makes Mr. Tryan's question moot, and makes Mr. Tofanelli's issue moot, which I didn't believe they were. So inform me about that, clarify that for me if you would, please. You don't have to do it right now, but after I sit down if you want to, unless you want to have an interaction. So those were important issues brought up by both gentlemen, and my understanding was that the housing element was not carved in stone, but I understand now from last week that you're moving ahead with it, various provisions of it. So that's my confusion. I would like some clarification. Lastly, in support of the element, Mr. Walensky made a comment about a big government program, how successful a big government program was. You brought up the Highway Act of the Eisenhower administration, which is actually called the Interstate Highway Act 1956. And I feel compelled to comment about that because you used that as an example of how big government can do big things for the good of everybody. But the act itself was not actually done for altruistic purposes. It was done to line the pockets of a great many very large industrialists in the construction industry, oil, and automotive, which it did. It also produced the most inefficient transportation system of any industrialized nation. That's us. It also led directly to a number of things that I believe you're probably against. Urban sprawl, inner city blight, dependence upon the automobile, and therefore oil, and therefore foreign oil, and all that that implies, and all the air pollution that goes with it. And even one of your favorite programs, Agenda 21 from the UN, which was aimed directly at the United States because of the effects of the Highway Act on the urban planning of the United States. So there's some good reading on this subject if you really want to know. 3 books that I can recommend, which I've read: The Road to Ruin by, having trouble reading my own writing here because I forgot my glasses, Mowbray, Superhighway Super Hoax by Leavitt, Leavitt, and The Geography of Nowhere, particularly good one, by James Kunstler. So I'm suggesting that before you use a big government program, tout a big government program to support another government program, you might want to do a little reading, just in case somebody out here has. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments? If so, please come forward.
Good morning, Rosemary Wilson from McCallamy Hill. Just wanted to follow up on the previous speaker when he spoke about the possibility of you putting it on the agenda that there be an evening meeting of the Board of Supervisors. As I recall, maybe earlier this year or later last year, when you were reviewing, I think that the item agenda came up as reviewing the format of the actual agenda of the Board of Supervisors meetings. It was discussed then, and there was quite a bit of discussion that how various members of the community would benefit from having the occasional and maybe regular meetings in the evening. And so I don't really see any need to bring it up as a new item if it's already been discussed by the board some months ago. So perhaps it would be good to for the Board of Supervisors to give a progress report on what they actually decided to do. I believe you were going to be looking into staging the meetings at a different time to accommodate people who couldn't normally attend during the day. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? If so, please come forward.
Al Sagano, Taxpayer Association. I appreciate David's comments because we concur 100% with what he said, though I'm not so sure that the highway system is hurtful to the United States because it provides better commerce. And but one of the things of concern is the housing element. And early on, it was requested from county staff to identify those things that are actually required by state law or CEQA, and those things that were not. So you could decide how extensive you're going to be. And I think that the taxpayers would really like to know specifically what items that are on the approved housing element are not required by the state. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comments. That completes item 10, if I'm on the right agenda. We'll move forward then to item 12, a minute order authorizing a refund of road impact mitigation fees in the amount of $36,568 to Black Creek Ranch LLC. This has been continued from our May 10th, 2011 meeting. It's a Public Works item. I think we sent it over to County Council to get a comment. So County Council, would you like to give us your comment?
Sure. This item was on the agenda as a routine reimbursement of room fee deposit. And the question came up, essentially, could the county hold the funds and reimburse the county for property tax payments that were in arrears on the property. So I was asked to research that. The county's room fee ordinance, which is based on the Mitigation Fee Act, both our ordinance and the state law provide that where the building permit elapses, the room fees on deposit shall, and we use that word, shall be refunded to the developer. So the law makes it very clear that the funds are the property of the developer. Question is, can the county essentially seize that money? And the answer is no. The general rule on property tax about a case, it's Garcia versus the County of Santa Clara, a 1978 decision, describes or states the rule as follows. The general principles that apply to property taxes in California are that they are imposed on the ownership of property as such. No personal liability arises from their non-payment. The sole security for the tax is being the property itself. So I believe it's clear that where property is on the secured tax roll, as this is, the property is the only source of payment of the funds. And that's the scheme that we have in California. There are exceptions. There is at least one exception to this rule that under certain circumstances, which I don't believe apply here, but to pursue that would involve litigation and a further discussion, and I'm not recommending it, but if the board wants to explore that, I'd recommend a closed session discussion of that option. But as I said, I don't believe those conditions apply here. So
I would like to pursue it.
Okay, is there more discussion?
Darren? Yes. What county council has researched, I'm sure, is accurate. The quote was, can the county seize the money? The answer was no. I would submit to you that it would be inappropriate for us to seize the money, as in cash the check, spend the money, etc. However, holding the money does not constitute seizing until such time that we can come to an arrangement with the people who owe us the money. Seeing that they owe us $147,000 in another arena, it might not be that we can subtract, it's not that easy. However, I've looked at the list of the people in the bankruptcy filing, and it's about as long as my leg. And some people, they're into it for millions and millions of dollars. So the idea that we have a legal right to attach their property as collateral for that $147,000, there is not a chance a snowball's chance that we're ever going to get that $147,000 based on holding their property as collateral, looking at the list of people who are named as creditors in their bankruptcy. So, my understanding on this is that if we get away from the terminology of seizing and rather say that we're holding till such a time that they work these things out, that we could put off taking $36,000 out of our money that we have when we have extremely tight budget right now to refund to somebody that owes us $147,000. And I would like to explore this to the very end of the possibilities before I would feel comfortable, which I would submit to you that would never happen, that I would feel comfortable, but until such a time that we know that all remedies are exhausted, for us to not refund this $36,000 to somebody that owes us $147,000. So, if we need to do a closed session on it, I would make a motion that we do that.
I'm happy to do the closed session. I would just point out that, and pushing my expertise to the limit, but I don't think that the bankruptcy will discharge the lien on the property. So I think the property does stand as good security for the tax obligation, notwithstanding the bankruptcy.
And we're in first place over other creditors?
The bankruptcy just doesn't discharge
The property
Property tax on the property itself, no matter who.
It's always the first lien.
Yes.
Yeah, we're always, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it's always the first lien.
Also, rem fees aren't part of our budget. That's a separate account. That's used for...
Yeah, I think the fees are held in an account that we could not use.
Yeah, that's a trust account.
That's a trust account for...
We don't get the interest and we can't use the money.
Well, there's things you can use it for. There's other projects that you could offset the rim or, make adjustments or things like that. It's not just like it's going from thin air. It could be used for something to help further our county. Well, with rim fees. You guys, this board...
Be used for rem fee projects.
Yeah, this board unanimously approved $10,000 discount in REM fees for the new Veterans Hall in Valley Springs. That was a 5-0 vote by this board. That's $10,000 that they basically granted to the veterans in Valley Springs that they should have had to pay in REM fees, but they didn't. So this $36,000, if you're willing to give it away, whether it comes from the general fund or not, it could be used for something better than giving back to somebody who owes us much more in bankruptcy. So I'd like to see this pursued to the point where we know absolutely without a doubt that it's the only remedy.
Well, the RIM fees, you can't just use it on a RIM project unless the project has proceeded. I mean, the RIM fees are a mitigation. If there's nothing to mitigate because the project did not go forward, then you have to return the money. You can't use it to mitigate something when there's nothing to mitigate against. So, Steve?
I just had a question on finances. Let's just hypothesize that we passed the, what was called a motion a minute ago, and decide that we want to litigate this. I know that the details have to be discussed in closed session, but one of the details that might be important for the public to be aware of is to get $36,000, what would the cost of the litigation? You've already said that you don't think the conditions exist for it, but let's just say the rest of us decided the conditions were. What's the type of cost that would be incurred by the county to go fetch the 36? What are the parameters that you would imagine if this was to go to court?
They would have to spend money to litigate to get it to us.
Well, the problem is the conditions that would require, we could file a lawsuit, there are the conditions which I think do need to be discussed in closed session. If they were present, if they existed, there would be, I think, a fairly inexpensive lawsuit to pursue, in all honesty. So that's the answer to your question. The issue here is this money is the property of the developer. We happen to have it in our custody and know where it is, but it could be in a local bank, it could be in any other form. And what we really need to do is go to court, get a judgment, and attach that property, whether we hold it or somebody else holds it. So that would be the process that would be followed, would have to be followed in order to hold on to this money or go after any other asset of the property owner. But I think the fundamental question is this fee is the property of the developer.
I need to make a statement in regards to that question, that line of questioning to County Council. County Council answered correctly to Mr. Walensky's question. However, Mr. Walensky stated the question as in that we were the pursuer, that we would have to pay to go fetch it. We don't have to fetch it. We already own it. We have it. They would have to bring litigation against us, against the county, to fetch it. So we are in the driver's seat here. They would have to actually, the onus would be on them to get to hire counsel to come fetch it from us because we possess it this time. And the second point is, in terms of road mitigation fees, Copperopolis is still the district is part of the district that I represent at this point in time. One of the things that's very important to them and important to me is that at some time in the history of their community, they will have a brick and mortar library in their town. This particular property in question, which is owed $147,000 in taxes, is located on Copper Cove Drive, which is one of the main arteries in Copperopolis. Now, if it was that this went to the full extent in the courts and we received ownership of that property through the bankruptcy process, which you made mention or referred to earlier, these REM fees that we have that were uncollected quite possibly could be used to mitigate the library that could be built on that property if the county were to take possession of it. Okay? So just to give these REM fees away when they could be used to mitigate the road issue if the county were to acquire that property and the Friends of the Library in Copper were to be able to build a brick and mortar on that if the county granted them access to that property, we need to pursue this again to the nth to make sure that there is not something that we can do to keep these dollars in our county when there's somebody who owes us an extensive amount of money more than what we owe them. And I do not believe that they're going to pay any legal counsel to come and try to fetch from us $36,000. For the same reason you're talking about, they'd have to pay 30 grand to get the 30 grand. They're not gonna come after us to get it. Just as we made an assertion to the fair, that if they didn't pay us the money, that we were gonna bring a lawsuit against them for money owed. And they told us to pound sand, because they know that it's not a winning battle. We're not gonna put out that kind of money to go try to fetch 20 grand. And these people, if they're smart, are not gonna put out, 30 grand to get 36. It's just the way it goes. So we don't have to fetch anything, they have to fetch it from us. Until such time that we know that we absolutely have to, then I think we need to continue to pursue it and hold it. And if we need a closed session to talk about that.
I have staff standing behind you. I need to have staff's comment first, and then we'll open it to the public.
Kelly Zana,
Thank you.
Public Works. I was just going to mention that the money is not returned back to an individual, it's returned back to the LLC. So I just want to make sure that was clear. We're not
Which
cutting
is
a
the
check to any
bankruptcy,
individual.
Which is in bankruptcy.
Yes.
So it goes to the bankruptcy court.
Yes, and there was supposed to be a trustee sale today, which I believe is probably going to be canceled. So just to update you on that.
Okay,
Questions?
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other board comments? Okay, public comments. Al, would you please come forward?
I appreciate Supervisor Spelman's concern about the money being owed to county and the county having money. But I can agree with the county council. I think taxpayers would agree with the county council on this because this money was induced or taken from the developer to offset consequences of that development on the community, particularly the roads. Road impact mitigation is for that purpose. And when the project no longer existed, then obviously that money is not supposed to be used for anything else. It should be returned to the developer. And another thing on taxes, if you fail to pay your taxes, according to the law, you have 5 years. And you incur penalties each year. It gets to be a pretty big bill. And at the end of 5 years, if you don't pay your taxes, then the property can go to tax sale. And the relationship between the value of the property and the amount of those taxes is usually quite broad. A $100,000 tax bill could be involving maybe $1 million property. So the likelihood of liability for the county is very slight, and it's making quite a profit on the interest it's charging on these back due taxes. There's an option, according to law, as I understand it, that anytime during the 5 years, the person that owes the money can make an agreement with the county, and then they have to get current on that year's taxes, and then plus an amount they need to pay over the next 5 years to get complete recovery. But even that is kind of rough if the person is bankrupt or in serious financial problem. So anyway, your intentions, I think, are right, but the principles were not quite correct on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Any other public comments? I'll close off public comments, bring the discussion back to the board. What's the direction of the board?
I guess I would ask the chair whether he has recognized is there a motion on the floor already or not, and is there a
Make a
second?
motion that we go into closed session to discuss this fully.
Is there a second to that motion?
Nobody wants a second to make sure that we don't lose. We're giving $36,000 of the county's money away to somebody who owes us $147 in bankruptcy, which we're never going to collect. No one wants to take a second and talk about it further. You're just going to give away people's money like that?
Is there a second? Okay, the motion dies for lack of a second. Is there another motion?
I move we authorize the refund of the road impact mitigation fee to the Rock Creek Ranch LLC as requested by staff.
I have a motion by Supervisor Callaway. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Supervisor Walensky. Is there further board discussion?
I'm going to be voting no because these people are being federally indicted. I know that for a fact, and there's no way that we should be giving this money back to them.
Okay, all in favor so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? No. It passes on a 4-1 vote with Supervisor Spellman in the negative. Thank you. And with that, I have to excuse myself, and I'll turn the gavel over to Gary.
It's not 10:30.